Good afternoon, everyone. This is my first TAD Summit, and I have to say I regret not coming many years earlier. It's been really a wonderful day. I will not speak about programmable telecoms. I will speak about telecoms, but more around a financial perspective, or rather a financial solution. This NewINSIKT is a company, it's a startup we kicked off earlier this year. So we are really in the early stages. And the background is a little bit, it's going back and look at mobile operators. When they started out, there was really simple networks that they had. The tariff plans were really simple. 1 minute was like €1 or £1, or so it was really easy to keep track of the money and understand where in the networks do I make my money. But if we forward a number of years, to today, we have still our GSM 2G lingering around. We've got the 3G, we've got 4G, we've got 5G, knocking on the door. The networks have grown, and they're incredibly complex. So, let me see if this one works now. So here we have the guy who's supposed to be in charge of the money, the CFO. And normally he will get a request for investment from the CTO, and he is like wondering, wow, you want all this money, will we make any money out of it? And the truth is actually that he does not know, nor does anyone else in the company know if they actually make any money out of the investments that they do. So what's happened over the years as all this technology has been added to the mobile operators, that of course the network analytics have improved. So now we can track all the traffic, we can get all the different call logs, etc. The marketing side are getting better and better in terms of the subscriber analytics, understanding what people are using, when, and so on. But actually on the financial side, the tracking has been lagging. So the CFO, sure, he's got better systems, which is towards the auditing, because the auditing rules are changed, so the ARPUs and his sort of accounting system has improved. But not when it comes down to understanding the financial side of things in the network, so from an operational perspective, not from a bookkeeping perspective. So, and I sort of stumbled across this problem. I spoke to a number of operators, and they basically validated, we don't know. We've tried to fix it ourselves, but we failed. So I thought, wow, this is a good use case to start addressing. And there were a few sort of considerations that I wanted to take into account looking at a solution. So starting with the first one, and that is coming from Peter Drucker. I mean, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. It's sort of quite obvious. But the interesting thing is, if I can't measure my profitability out in the network on an individual, sort of on a more precise basis, how am I going to improve it? I can measure my technical performance, but I cannot measure my financial performance. So that was one consideration. Then the other one was also around sort of the halving of the value of data. So some operators, a lot of operators today, they pull different things, information together, they crunch it in spreadsheets, and it takes them weeks and weeks and weeks. So by the time they're finished, the result is fairly arbitrary because there's lots of assumption, but it's also old. So how am I going to improve on something that might be a few weeks old? Well, quite often, if there is something I want to fix, it's already have happened. It's a little bit too late. So those were sort of the two considerations that I sort of took when starting to look at this. But then the other question was that, okay, so what? What if an operator can do this? Is there really any true value in it? So I did some more research, and actually McKinsey had done a study in terms of improving the operators, and this was around sort of digitizing the operations overall. And the improvement potential is quite staggering. And we all, hear about how, the data traffic is going through the roof, the business case have completely changed, and it's very hard for operators to make a profit. And we also see it. There is a huge consolidation happening. The companies are going bust, or they're putting themselves up to sell. But I think it's also partly because they don't have all the tools that they really need to manage the operations efficiently. And essentially, this is what McKinsey is trying to say. And this is not just financial, it's just in general around sort of digitization. So I took this, and I've been looking at different operators, also trying to convert it into dollars and cents. And I found in the UK, EE, Everything Everywhere. And I took their last accounts that they published before being bought up by BT. And they're a standalone operator, a lot of like M10 we got here. They publish their financial results as a group, so then it's difficult to unpick it and try to understand what a single operator can potentially earn. And then I just said, what if only 1 percentage point could be improved on these 4 factors that McKinsey had outlined? So then, CapEx could be reduced with 7 million, OpEx with 49 million, this is pounds, per year. And revenues could go up with another 64, which would have a net effect on the cash flow with 119 million. And that's for 1 year. So it's quite a lot of money. So maybe it's worthwhile trying to do this. So we've sort of come up with a solution, and then we said, so what is it that we will measure, and what do we need to do? So from a financial perspective, we'll measure returns, efficiency KPIs, profitability. So profitability, of course, is your revenue minus your cost, and then you get your gross profit, and then we have some more cost, and you can get it all the way down to EBITDA. And we look at investments, and we also look per asset, so per network asset that sits out there. And the assets are quite often also individual to which technologies they support. So we can do this down to 2G. So if there is a base station that's only 2G, then we will know for that particular asset, and then 3G, 4G, etc. And we do it across the network. We also then, because we know where the base stations are located, then we can of course build it up geographically, so we can mirror the operator's organization, so they can also then draw the financial KPIs from an organizational perspective. And then, of course, depending if they have things like DPI, deep packet inspection, we then, of course, will know what type of traffic is going through the network. So we basically pull these different data sources together, and we run it every day. So for the previous day, we will then run it, so when people come to the office in the morning, hopefully they will have the financial performance from the previous day, and then with all the other days before that, so that, we can do trend analysis and so on. So, very broadly, how do we go about it? Well, we use different feeds, so clearly from the network side. We also have from the billing side, so we can address the revenue. And we also need to tap into the different plans. Of course, enterprise data, so we can get our costs out and use the cost structure, etc., as well as for CRM. Of course, we run the analysis, and then the outputs are different forms of KPIs. And because there's so much data, then it's relatively easy, in sort of in inverted commas, relatively, then to run different forms of machine learning and more advanced analytics, etc. So we look at, of course, on planning. So clearly to give a heads up, for instance, when capacities are run out, maybe for licenses, etc. So if I sit in the finance department and I just do a straightforward extrapolation, I can maybe know 6 months ahead that we're going to have a bunch of licenses out there that would need renewal. And then I can start to plan maybe on my CapEx side and those type of things. And then, of course, for your business case, so before you do the investment, so you can do your what ifs. So if we're going to do an upgrade of 50 base stations in a certain part of the country, how much more traffic do we need to generate, and what traffic? Is this traffic really profitable traffic? Because subscribers, even if we are on the same plan, depending on how we use our phones, right, we will then generate different profitability. So the income, of course, is the same. But if I use my plan to 100%, but someone else used their plan to 5%, of course, I will have consumed more network resources than the one who did it for 5%. And therefore, of course, that the other person is more profitable from an operator perspective, which also means that it's an inverse almost relationship between profitability and traffic. So from an operator's perspective, of course, is to get us all to sign up to the biggest plans, but then at the same time get us to use the mobile networks as little as possible. So a little bit about us. So it's myself and a couple of other guys. We are working on this. So we have about 20 years type of experience in our different fields. And we're basically pulling this together. So it's a combination of telco knowledge, financial management knowledge, and data science, machine learning. We all have our battle scars, and been really, if I can talk for myself, I've started up a mobile phone operator, so I know if I would have had this, it would have made my life very, very, much easier. So yeah, and we are early stage, so we are building our MVP, our sort of minimum viable product. So hopefully it's going to be ready fairly soon. So hopefully the aim is that we can avoid this situation, and hopefully we can get to this instead. So that was it. So any questions? Or do we have questions, or we have run out of time? Late.
1 or 2 questions. If not, then we'll move on, because I have to use my laptop to set up the Hangout again. So do we have any questions? So he picks it up. So do we have any questions? If not, again, I excuse it's going to be a couple of minutes break. This is a fun afternoon session, to say the least.